Okay. Okay. So we are ready for the next perceptual disability. It's a very, very particular. And I had many experiences with many of that. Hearing. What's deafness? Deafness is the reduction, more or less serious, of the hearing. According to the deafness classification of BIAP, Bureau International d'Audiophonologie, it is possible to distinguish 4 degrees related to the entity of loss of hearing expressed in decibel. Light, between 20 to 40 decibel. Medium, between 40 to 70 decibel. Serious, between 70 and 90 decibel. Profound, equal or more than 90 decibel. The different degrees of deafness influence in many ways the acquisition and development of the vocal language. Who is the deaf? To identify a person affected by deafness, many different ways are used, like deaf, deaf mute, with hearing disorders, hypoacusic, hearing handicapped, wake of hearing, bad hearing, not hearing, and also deaf with hearing aid, speaking deaf, bilingual deaf, and also in other ways. But the law 95, the Italian law 95/2006, has substituted the term deaf and mute with the term deaf. Number 2 article states the following. According with the present law, it is considered deaf the hearing sensorial disabled afflicted by congenital deafness or acquired during evolutive age that had compromised the normal learning of the spoken language, as long as deafness is not an exclusively psychic origin or depending by work or service causes. So, the official name is deaf. Prejudices. Difficulties in communication with deaf descend from a series of prejudices about deafness. For instance, they think that a deaf is also mute. The vocal apparatus of a deaf is completed, but it doesn't have the feedback of what he is saying, and so he cannot modulate the voice. Another prejudice consists in believing that the deaf has a mental disease, but this deficit is sensorial, not cognitive. If you hear a deaf trying to talk, this way, because they don't have the feedback, that's why. So they are not able to correct the sound, that's why. But they are not mute. From architectural barrier to communication barrier. The attention toward the world of disabled is increasing continuously, thanks to the more sensibility of single people and institutions regarding solidarity for the more social weak category of population. When one gets in touch with the world of disability, a great attention is dedicated to the architectural barrier that obstruct passages or obstacle movements, or more generally, the use of essential services. But inside this world, however, live another world, not so known, unimaginable, unnoticed, because this world is referring to an invisible disability that can be detected only when you get in relation with the disabled. Incomprehensible because governed with proper rules and with its own language and communication system, usually unknown. It is the silence zone, the world of the deaf. When you talk about death, generally you don't have an accurate perception of the real communication difficulties that they encounter during common everyday life, as it is the only disability that can be detected only at the moment of relation and therefore invisible. In a world designed by hearing people for hearing people, deafness represents a real structural barrier, overtaken only by learning an adequate language. Deafness is the most frequent sensorial disability. When we talk about deafness, in Italy, there are 500,000 deaf. 500,000. And with people with bad hearing or with problems in hearing, even if not deaf, this number becomes 1 million. 1 million people in Italy suffer problems with hearing. About one born each 10,000 is deaf. And it's a very problem with a child, a very great problem. Let's talk about the deaf and the deafness. I had many experience with them. I have many friends with them. Usually, they appear as normal people. You don't detect that one person is deaf. When you get in touch, yes, because you start to use hands instead of voice. And they risk very much in their life. I remember one friend, deaf, that was just reading a newspaper at the bus station, and the bus coming back, beep, 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 but he doesn't hear. So the driver was convinced that had alerted the people, but he can't hear it. Imagine to sound the ring of the house of a deaf. What happens inside the house? What happens inside the house? Light up. Light up. I visit a family of my friends, and when I was going away, I remember that I had left the key of the car inside. So I tried to ring, but they had changed room, so they don't see the light. And there were also many accidents. Some years ago in Russia, they were in an institute of death. There was a fire, and they didn't see the alarm, and 32 of them will die because they are not able to detect sound. It's a very complicated word. Usually they use the language of sign. With the hand, they can make about 3,200 signs. And it's not only the sign, it's the velocity of the sign. And they take care where they made the sign. In the Italian, for instance, in Italy, of course, they first learn how to manage with the sign, and then try to learn Italian. They write very bad Italian. It's their second language, not first. So, let's say, how to behave with deaf people. First of all, do not use slang when talking with the deaf. He learns only written language, so he can also read. He will read your lips, so if you use the slang, he doesn't understand. You had to talk the real language, not slang. Because they learn to write. Now their deafness is facilitated by the fact that with PC and smartphone, it's very easy to send messages and so on. So to remain in contact also with hearing people through the PC, the computer. Take care your face is well illuminated because he is used to read this word. So take care that that your face is lighted so they can better understand the movement of your lips. It's not necessary to talk louder than normal. It's not necessary to talk louder than normal. A deaf is able to understand you even if you don't have any sound. If you just move your lip, it's just the same. But usually the first attempt to get in touch with a deaf is, but I speak louder. No, it's not necessary. Don't talk too much in a hurry, but neither too much slowly. Talk clearly without overstatement. You don't have to talk too much slowly. Use your speed. Someone of you knows a deaf or had relations with a deaf? Because they are fantastic people. The 11% of information goes through to brain, through ear. So it's energy that they use to use hands, to use arm, to talk with many emotions. When you are in front of the deaf eat you. Look at your face with avidity, he has to grasp every sensation, every emotion, every movement that you do. Because it's just the only thing that he can do, just seeing your face. And you feel just really eaten by them. And to deaf like very much jokes about death. They enjoyed it. Clear concepts and simple phrases are more advisable. If you talk with a deaf, don't make any complicated, just simple phrase, just concept very easy to understand. Gesturing, not exaggerated, is better comprehensible. Specific gestures of the national language of signs must be used only if well known, otherwise don't do it. Each nation has his own language of signs. There's also the international language of science, but usually they don't use it. They prefer to use them, and they understand each other just the same, because the difference are not so intense. But for instance, in the United States, they estimate there's 25 million of deaf in the USA, and usually the medium American can see deaf during his everyday life, and they calculate that 5 million of deaths are exposed during the day to the Americans. 5 million on 25. So it's quite common to have a relation with the deaf. Since only 2 or 3 years in Italy, translate political debate, for instance. At a religious level, not ever ceremonies are translated in language of science. And the language of science is not certificated as an official language. While, for instance, in Italy, Sardinia, the Great Isle, has recognized, certificated his language. Do you know it? Yes. The Sardinian is an official language for the Italian Republic. The language of science, no. Remember that the deaf cannot follow at the same time lips movement and the gestures of an operative procedure. As a consequence, first indicate or make, and then explain. They are very come si dice impegnato? Come? Yes, they are very engaged in knowing and in translating the movement of the lips. They don't see any other thing. Quindi, first explain or make, then don't talk about the deaf with others when this deaf is present. As he can't hear, he observes very cautiously any movement and then he glimpses and could arrive to wrong conclusions. Yeah, is clear what I mean? In front of a friend or of a deaf, don't talk about that deaf with others. Science can be misunderstood. Words are not always the better way to communicate. Often it is more significant a friendly gesture or invite him to have a coffee. They appreciate first of all, they talk very in a hurry. When they try to talk, are in a very hurry. And when they sign the language, they are really very, very hurry. Huh? So, it's better to put a hand on the shoulder. Come on, going to take a coffee. It's better than communicate by word. Because they are very tactile. They need to touch. That's why. They need to touch, and they have an emotional level very high. So really participate. Because when they move the hands, they really participate to the discussion. The hands. What are the hands? The hands are the instrument to communicate from inside to outside and from outside to inside. By hands, I touch something and I can say that it's hot or cold. It's hard or it's not hard. Okay? But also intimate emotion I can manifest, I can explain by touching, by hands. So above all, the hands are the instrument to connect the subjective world with the objective world. That's why. So every time they say they use the hands, are just explaining a profound part of them, interior part of them. Deaf use, they have a very usual life, except the fact that between them, among them, they communicate quite easily with the language of science. With the other, no, because, for instance, I don't know the language of science. So, it's all right, okay? They are quite intelligent. And when they do something, they do it with very intensity. As far as the world of work is concerned, which kind of words can do a deaf? Because it's difficult to stay, to work in group without communication. But if you take a deaf and he starts and applies, for instance, in personal computer procedures or in projecting by computer or in graphic computer, they are excellent because they are not disturbed, remain concentrated for hours and hours. So it could be an advantage in that sense, of course, only in that sense. Often the deaf see and perceive with extraordinary sensibility what he cannot hear. This can influence his behavior. There's a mistake on the slide, okay. Their sensibility is very expanded, that's why. Because they had to communicate emotions, they are very, how can I say, very receptive to the emotions of others. Each person with loss of hearing enjoy if you try to involve him in a conversation. Try. Because they feel themselves excluded from a group that is communicating. So try. At the beginning, it could be difficult with the sign. Then he will try reading your lips to articulate, and in some way you get in touch. Be sure the weak hearing individual has understood all quite well. This is very important in case of agreements. If necessary, repeat what just said with other words or using other phrases. A deaf has the necessity to have an interpret to do a contract, for instance. Because the interpreter assure lawyer and so on that what really deaf has understood. So it's not free to buy a car paying not cash. The necessity that the interpreters explain him with the language of signs and then assure the other part that of everything is correct. And definitely can buy a flat. Can buy a loan. Let's stimulate the weak deaf individual to participate to a group discussion. Don't leave the deaf apart. Put it inside the group. Try to involve. Don't forget that the deaf makes a great effort to remain concentrated, to follow the conversation. So he becomes tired sooner than normal people. It's the effort is really high to follow the language of science, the movement of lips, and so on. Well, did you ever had the experience of remain with the ear closed for some minutes? Did you do it? It's quite difficult. After 10, 15 minutes, for the deaf, it's a usual condition. And this is very, very difficult to manage. It depends, of course, also on how is profound the deafness. The problem, for instance, of the child is that the parents doesn't know the sign language. A child deaf of a parent's hearing, the parents discover the deafness of the child not always during borning, perhaps after months, perhaps after years. Even if during the born, after the born, medical doctors are obliged to measure the auditory capacity, very often it doesn't happen. So the parents, mother, father, try to talk with the baby as usual, but he doesn't understand. I can't hear. But the parents, mother and father, doesn't know the same language, and they don't know neither that his child is deaf. And when he discovered it, how get in touch, how get in relation with the baby? That he's still not speak 1 year, 2 2 years. Could be usually that a child doesn't speak for 1 year, 2, 3 years. Could be usual. So there's a difficulty. They are very, very difficult. What this means? This means that the child, the deaf child, need an ambient that facilitates the acquisition of sign language and question mark. When the child has 4 or 5 years, go at school. But school is projected for hearing people, not for deaf. Sometimes they have special teacher specializing on deafness, otherwise not. A friend of mine is an interpreter of the sign language. Usually to learn the language need about 3 years of study. To become interpreter, 7 years. And he was a teacher, a sustaining teacher, a special teacher for deaf. And they, what did with Silvio, a child of 5 years, used the music. And all the other children of this class, children of this class learned the language of sign. It's fantastic, fantastic. Then asked some voluntary musicians that with the drum stimulate the little boy to react. I've got a movie, incredible, with the musician that sound the drums. The little boy that go on time, and all the other children of the class that sing and repeat the music of the... Incredible. Incredible. The world of deaf is a world with his own rules and with his own language. That's why. And if we don't learn it, they are out and we are out. Any question? Next time I will bring you the video, so we will enjoy 3 minutes. Incredible, incredible. What the children do, it's incredible. To have their little friend. Fantastic. This just for saying that deafness is a very particular disability. Now, when a passenger, a deaf passenger, comes to the check-in and wants to be embarked, what happens? Because the employee of the check-in tell him, please document, take a reservation, so on, but he doesn't understand and start to make movement. Usually, they understand quite well written language. So you take a sheet of paper and a pen and write what he need. Okay. Already tired? No. Question about the deafness or the deaf? Did you ever see a deaf in action? It's fantastic. When they talk together, incredible. They had the velocity in making the signs, incredible. 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 They take 3 years to learn it. The magic language of science. As a matter of fact, in Italy, we call the Italian language of science. It is LIS, Language Italian Science. In France, they have French language of science. And in England, the English, and so on. As I said before, the international science language is not so used. They don't love it, don't like it. I assisted a conversation between an Italian deaf and a French deaf. Fantastic. Because they had some equal science and some different science. So they had to explain to the other with the science, with the meaning of the science. And they love situation where they can laugh, they can enjoy. They enjoy the life. Yeah, that's why. I go on, I stop here. After the deafness, we just have a look, just very in a hurry, have a look to the mental disability. Because it could happen that a mental disabled is bring on board by parents because they want to show you the sea. I have a couple of friends that had a son, mental disabled, 100%, 100% means they can embrace, 16 years, and they bring him all over the world. Wherever they went, their son was with her. In an extremely sensitive individual, incredible. And they never left alone, never. And he was so full of sensitivity that responded to this love of his parents. Incredible. Mental disability descends from a brain compromising due to genetic and prenatal causes for suffering during birth or morbid or traumatic neonatal causes. In the mental disability, we observe the incapacity of the subject to take on and resolve new problems, even extremely simple new problems, difficulties that can be overcome only through a wide familiarization with the things and a specialized education. Some of you had seen the movie The Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. Yes. Dustin Hoffman was a mental disabled, maniac of order. On Wednesday, we had to lunch at 12 o'clock and we had to read hamburger. And on Friday at 9, they had to eat at 7 o'clock and eat potatoes and so on. Super intelligent as far as mathematical calculus is concerned, but not for all. Psychic disability shows the typical symptoms of psychosis and mental illness. Here they can be found, among others, delirious elements, hallucinations, paranoia, autism, uncontrolled aggressive behaviors against oneself and the others. I don't think that people with this syndrome are taken as tourists on the ship. It's quite heavy disability. Intellectual and relational disability is characterized by an irreversible intellectual and relational incapacity of a subject that causes very heavy psychic and motor nerve pathologies. This particular kind of state can be caused by many factors of genetic nature, but not only. Among more known, we find Down syndrome and autism. An individual with Down syndrome can be a tourist because he behaves normally. I think that most of the disabled tourists that go on ship are motor disabled or perhaps blind or deaf disabled at more. So, as we said this morning, we don't have to solve the problem of that tourist. We have to take care of the problem. That's why. Just the simple request of a deaf, where is the WC, where is the toilet, waiting the embarkation, can be a problem if someone take care of it and conduct him to the toilet. Okay? And even if there are some people accompanying them, it could be that in that moment the people is not here. So you have to front this abnormal situation. My suggestion: treat the others how you would be treated. That's why. Open your heart, open your mind, give the best of you, and that's all. Technicality are marginal things. What they feel is the emotion. What they feel is the sensation. What they feel is the attention, the love that you use to take care of them. That's why. All right? There's also a mini glossary about the mental health. We use word very often without knowing its significance. What difference there is between stupidity and idiocy? So, just for curiosity, let's see the situation. Idiocy, mental retardation. It's a serious congenital mental insufficiency. Congenital insufficiency, the idiocy. So if we use idiot, it's a stupid, short of mind, person rough and without education. Idiocy is one thing, idiot is another thing. Stupid, scarcely intelligent, slow in understanding, naive, unsophisticated. How stupid you are. It's different from idiot. It's a little bit different. Cretinism, very often endemic illness characterized by developmental interruption of the organism, by deficiency of mental capacities, and by other secondary inconveniences, usually due to thyroid gland malfunction. Here there's a pathological cause. But when you say cretinous, we don't think to the cretinism really. When you say cretinos, we use it as stupid, imbecile. Okay? Imbecile. How imbecile you are. Afflicted by insufficient mental development. Foolish, stupid, idiot. Insufficient mental development. Pathological state. Huh? But when we say you are an imbecile, we don't intend this one. We use the word stupid, cretinous, imbecile, as if they are the same thing, but they are not the same thing. Please. Pardon me? Yes. Yes. But yes. It depends how you say stupid. That's why. I can say imbecile referring to a pathological state, or imbecile, come here, stupid, just friendly, just, you mean. And then deficient, mentally deficient, mentally disabled, with intellectual capacities not sufficiently developed. Imbecile, stupid are quite similar, you see. Pathological state, deficient. This is just to understand something about the word that we use. Because when you have a disabled, and we use this word, we hurt them, of course. And we hurt their parents too. So, big attention, pay attention. All right. Well. So, we can, what I've done from this morning. We have talked about the international law, how disability has classified. Then we have talked about disability, generally speaking. Then we have talked about perception. Then the specific disability, motorial, blind, deafness, and mental. Any question on this program? Take into account that my first declaration was, I don't want to teach anything to anyone, but this must be a day to make culture, so to become conscious of these situations. That's why. Because if we are conscious, we can change the thing. Otherwise, we don't know how to change. So we change nothing. Correct? questions. You too, if you want to. Yes.
Okay, just I wanted to start with some consideration, then question, the direct question. It was very useful to hear about disability. It's such a non-clear and comprehensive concept, word, because for me, especially today, was the occasion to apprehend and to gain some awareness about the differences, existing differences among disabled persons, and the different approach that we have to have with them. Not just talking about for approach that we have to consider them as a normal person, because in fact they are all normal persons, but the fact that these are persons with problems, let's say, it's not so easy, not so clear. Persons with problems that are trying to live with such problems, that means such disabilities, that are coping with, and from our point of view, the need to understand them, to understand their difficulties, their gaps, that enable them to live normally. Let's say normally. It's a stupid term because maybe it's not the correct one, but respecting the majority of the persons, they do not live normal. It's not so. So we need to understand this difference, because, as you correctly explained, being deaf or mute or blind is not the same thing. Probably even in daily activities, we had to approach differently, understanding as generally speaking, yes, we have to understand their problem, their difficulties, their needs, and then we have to be able to, how would say, to deal differently, because of course a deaf person has some physical difficulties, while a blind one and others. So this is from this point of view, it was very, very, very clear, your contribution. Thank you very much.
Yes. The key word of what you said is, we don't have to solve the problem. We have to take care of the problem. The key word, take care. Take care of people. Take care. Because it's a person that needs help. Okay? Take care. If you want, someone will take care of you when you will need it. That's why. I would like to hear from each of you one thing that you will bring in the pocket coming home. What has been more important than other things during this day? This day has been useful or not, for what? In practical.
I can say that I will consider people with disabilities on a different way after your presentation, because of everything you said. That's all.
That's very important, because talking about disabled, we are talking about person, individual. with affects, with emotions, with the spirit, with the body, with parents, with interest, with culture, person.
Yeah, I had a friend, not a friend. Once upon a time, I was a sailing instructor, and I had a child that was not able to speak, but he heard okay. His ears was okay, so was very difficult to instruct him because you have to speak to instruct someone. And what type of disability is that? Is not deaf. What is? Mute? This is mute or is deaf? Mute. Okay. Yeah, and I liked from your presentation the fact that the blind people have to had the ability to decide to follow you and not to be forced to follow you. So you have not to take them, but to take the hand. Thank you.
For the blind, the key word is talk to them, talk to them, talk. Describe, describe, use words. One, two, or two.
I wanted to pose such a question earlier. You said about death that they have a specific behavior that they enjoy. They are always full of joy. It's correct. That's what I said. How can you explain it from I think from a psychological point of view? I think mostly. Yeah.
Here we are Italian, Montenegro, Slovenia. I think that each of us is happy to be Italian, Montenegro, Slovenia. Why? We are a community. Simply, we are in community. Our community has proper language, has proper law, proper rules. Am I right? Deaf is a world, the world of silence. They are a community. They have the same language. They say they have the same rules. It's a world inside a world. And they enjoy to be together. That's why they don't think of what they miss. They think to what they have. And I can say you that if you want to learn a new language, we need about 300, 400 words. With 300, 400 words, we can go outside our nation and manage the lunch, understand some title on newspaper, and see some scene of a television report. People, journalists, use 400, 500 words. A writer, not so famous, use 600, 700, 800, no more words. Big journalist, 1,000. Big writer, 1,000 and a half. Deaf people use 3,200 signs. That's why. So they are able to express sentimental emotions, thought, very, very cute, much more than what we do with words. That's why. And they are conscious of this. It's their word. That's why. But really, only staying with them during their usual activity, you understand their joy to stay together, and for them, the loss of hearing is not a problem. For us, yes. For them, no. Because they don't use residual abilities. They use normal abilities. That's why. It depends, it always depends on how one people consider itself. I have a very dear friend, born without one arm. He had only the right arm. He played football. He went to ski. He is convinced that the abnormal are the people with two arms. He is normal. One arm is normal. The others are abnormal. That's why. But he really, when you hear him talking about this, you see that he really trusted what you're saying. That's why. They think themselves not with residual ability. They are not differently able. They are able. Able in a different way. That is another thing. They are able in a different way. Like one of us that makes many works. Just the same.
I haven't had much contact with the disabled person until now. But after this presentation, I will look them with different eyes, I think. Thank you.
Really wonderful. You are the last. The first, the last, my everything. Singing.
Evo, ja ću nešto reći na crnogorskom, moj kolega će vam pomoći. Za mene kao arhitektu ovo je bilo vraćanje na prve studentske dane.
As my colleague is architect, this seems like his first day in faculty.
Kada smo počinjeli da učimo kako treba da se radi, a sada vjerovatno zaboravljamo ove stvari.
This is seems like his first start on university, and now he can he remembering the very things he know from his starts of faculty.
Qualcuno laggiù ha da dire qualcosa? We arrived at the end of the day, really. Any other question? Something to go inside again? Any clarification? Everything is clear? You said a very, very important thing, because if you, from tonight, when you will get in touch with a disabled, you look at him or her with other eyes, well, this day has been successfully. That's why. Because we want not to teach anything, but enlarge your consciousness. And the consciousness is something that, when it has been enlarged, cannot be turned again to its origin dimensions. It's a one-way mechanism, can only enlarge. That's why. That's why it's important to stimulate and enlarge our comprehensions of the things. Any question from people on YouTube? Well, we thank you also. Yeah. Okay?
wanted to thank you very much for your contribution today. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the listener on streaming. Just to add last thing, within the pen you received this morning, you have all the documentation of this training. That means a booklet, all the slides that have been used today. And again, once who is interested can download the video from YouTube, of course. Thank you very much. See you. And last thing also is, thanks also to CFLA from Venice that contributed to the organization of this training by sending us this beautiful, fantastic trainers.
And thank you for the technician and for the interpreters and everybody who has collaborated with the succeed of this today. And may the force be with you, okay? Okay.